Hello everyone and welcome along to a long overdue re-recording of United's Scarab Khemirates match against the Bash Buddies from week 2 of REBBL Season 10. I did record this one live at the time, but unfortunately the old live score ticker box had its little grey error thing about halfway through, so the entire second half was covered up by a grey box, which meant that it was pretty much unviewable. So we're going to watch the replay through, and I'll just sort of add my thoughts as and when we're going. Of course, Bash Buddies were the only team in Division 2 who were also in the same division as me last season. Barserk's Necro, who did make it to the quarterfinals in the playoffs. So they finished first, I finished second in GMAN Division 5, you might remember. So he did beat me 2-0 last season, so obviously was looking to avenge that and sort of square up the score. In terms of the kickoff, now I can't remember off the top of my head, I believe I chose to kick in this one. Mainly because obviously Necro can be a little tricky to get through, but I also just generally find that I tend to do better on defense. And then trying to work back, trying to stop the early score, if you like. I don't know, it seems to be a personal preference of mine, but it does change depending on the opponent, I guess. So, just going through the setup here, there was plenty of, obviously we've got plenty of guard on our team, with 2 guard skeletons and 2 tomb guardians with the skill as well. But there was plenty of it on his team as well, and we did get a perfect defense, which was very good news. So what we were able to do is just work our way along this line and trying to make all the blocks as difficult as we possibly could. We also put the strength 4 blitzerer on these players here. He was flanked by 2 guard players, and that meant the tackle was in play against both Snoop Dogg and Miss Piggy here. So the key players are of course the Mighty Blow Werewolf with Blodge, Sidestep and Tackle. The strength 4 Agi4 Ghoul, who was over here, and there's a strength 5 Flesh Golem that we had to deal with as well. So this was just setting the line up to try and make blocking as difficult as possible in terms of the LOS hits. That being said, didn't really work out, has to be said, when you see the results when all's said and done. Barserk makes some fairly solid plays actually to just get his strength 5 Flesh Golem in a position to blitz here, and does so in a way that chain pushes my guard skeleton off. Hits an arm break 2 for good measure, but wasn't able to retreat that Flesh Golem behind the line. Yeah, bringing that guard in did allow him to take a hit against my strength 4 Blitzerer, Ran Bone Man there. So yeah, got his 1 dice, just got a push, so it wasn't the end of the world. But obviously that took the tackle away. But as it turns out, the werewolf rolled a 5. But had the tackle have still been there, that would have been a turnover for the dodge white. So it wasn't too disastrous. We took a couple of knockdowns, which is probably not as bad as it would have been had we have had the opening 3 skeleton hits. So it just became about selecting target. We went for this white just to try and continue to apply the pressure. We wanted to get the pressure back on the werewolf again by bringing in the tackle in combination with a tomb guardian, but the both down result meant that we couldn't really do that, which was a shame. Took a push there to give ourselves a free hit with the piling on, but opted not to take it at the end, and then was just setting about blocking things. Trying to keep a fairly tight defensive lane. We did have a dirty player, and we did have 2 bribes as well in this one, so fouling zombies with guard certainly became a good idea. Just a stun that time, but didn't cost any of the bribes. So yeah, that Flesh Golem with Strength 5 and obviously Stand Firm is sort of everything that I want my Tomb Guardians to be. Eventually, very much in a similar run-up to Set 7. If I can get obviously the other Tomb Guardians level to a point where we can sort of stack those skills, it becomes a real pain for opponents to deal with. This was a good blitz because of course he can cancel out his frenzy by using his own Stand Firm Flesh Golem. And thanks to Claw, managed to get a stun on Billy Ray Osiris. Obviously this line of play did suggest that he was happy to go down the left-hand side. So again, my plan here was just keep things fairly tight. I was surprised to see the two whites stay in the backfield quite as much as they did. So keeping one Blitzer back as a safety, and then we spotted that we could actually take a hit thanks to the positioning of the guard. Ron Bonemine could come in to have a go at the Flesh Golem there. Did manage to pow him. And again, opted not to stand firm because he knew that dirty player was knocking around. We followed up because we did fancy panning on that had we have gone through. But alas, didn't work out. So another knockdown on that other Flesh Golem made that feel like it was very good news. But we didn't end up in a position where we could foul that. So just try to keep two banks of two there to stop a hole opening up in the midfield. That being said, Blitz comes in on the guard skeleton there. And that little chain push does actually open up a gap through the lines. Now, he did opt to take it, Barserk. Now, at the time when I was recording this live, I was fairly sure that this seemed like a bad idea. It was a very aggressive push through, but as it happened, he was able, with GFIs and whatnot, to get so many players forward to help out. That the ghoul was relatively safe, but again, at the same time, as we see another arm break. I was fairly comfortable that I could force him into a quick score from this position. So it basically became now about trying to get some tackle on the ball carrier to negate that dodge. So use the break tackle of Ron Bowman. He did actually roll a 6 on the dodge anyway. So that was a tricky decision. We found an armor break on that white and stunned him. We hadn't used Mighty Blow to get there, but I was very keen to keep the strength 4 tackle on the ball. So in the end, did opt to not pile on that one. At this point, it was again just taking blocks and making sure as many players as possible were based. Was able to get the Tomb Guardian on the ball as well to add in a little bit of guard and of course stand firm. So that freed up the Mighty Blow Werewolf. Now I thought he might have come in and taken a 1-dice blitz, but he didn't actually. He decided to go for the Throw-Ra instead. Who naturally took an armor break. That meant that he was unable to claw my other Blitzer instead. But of course, that meant that having blitzed, he was now relying on a dodge out of tackle, which does fail. Unfortunately for us, team rerolls are a thing. And the ghoul got away and again just continued to hair it down the field. So I guess that was a little frustrating at the time, but not the end of the world. I suppose we're relying on a 1 in 9. 1-dice skull there from the strength 4 zombie, which was decent because it allowed me to maybe free up a couple of players. So So that Tomb Guardian's job had very much become to just tie down the 2 Flesh Golems and keep them out of the game. But the Flesh Golems really weren't an issue at this point. That was a frustrating double skull. Fairly early doors. Yeah, because it meant we could no longer go quite as risky as we wanted. Came in for a cheap foul here because again we had the bribes and taking that foul early on made a lot of sense. So I managed to get a KO on Miss Piggy. So then what we want to do, because we still haven't blitzed, is just get the Tomb Guardian in for a guard assist. Unfortunately, as they so often do, rolled a 1. And that obviously allowed Barserk to stall out another turn, which was not the result we wanted. Those players being on the floor though did mean that they couldn't be blitzed, which was a positive. And a dead rookie skeleton. It does regen, so it wasn't the end of the world. So dodge out from the white into a 1 dice blitz on the dirty player. Which was again just Barserk trying to lock that down because obviously I was taking the fouling game fairly seriously. And then uphill block against the Tomb Guardian. We're at the point now where we decided we needed as much damage as possible, so piling on the guard zombie felt like it would be an improvement, even though there was plenty of zombies on the bench to come up the field. Better that they didn't have guard, if at all possible. GFI here was to allow a blitz from the floor with Tala Swift. Managed to get a KO on that werewolf, which was good news. Because it also cleared up that square for us to use the blitzer to consider going and standing near the ball as well. In fact, went to stand near. Well, okay, so we're near the goal, but it was backed up by the guard of the other Tomb Guardian, and not only that, it was certainly within range of the ball. And we're trying to cover off the stall this side as well, wanting to make sure that the score came on the next turn. Because 3 turns would still have been enough time to get that in. So Blitz came in on the thrower again. Rookie one. And he was okay this time. So yeah, this was Barserk just throwing his blocks. And then running the score after that. So at 1-0. And good old Imhotep Pratchett set to come off the bench. Didn't feel like the end of the world. Certainly felt like a 1-1 was possible in the second half. But there was every chance of a 3-turn score to give us a chance of that win. The Wolf did come back, which was frustrating slightly, but with 2 players being out, you would expect one of them to come back. So, perfect defence coming in to cancel out the perfect defence that we managed in the first half. So that's fair as fair, of course. Did mean that the flesh golems and the werewolves were able to step forward, and of course the wolves now becoming a threat to the ball if we were to fail the pickup. So just made sure to set up 3 dice blocks on the LOS. So then spotted a potential chain push play here with one of the Blitzrars to actually throw one of my Tomb Guardians onto the werewolf to try and keep that locked down. So at this point we brought a skeleton back on the cover just in case his pickup failed, and would you believe it, the pickup failed. So obviously this is now a big problem. I think realistically that dirty player should also have come back, but had the pickup gone well, we were looking at the foul with that. It very much depends on how you play your Khemri. Because you could obviously say, oh well, there could have been more protection around the ball there. Let's try and keep it a bit safer. Because as you're about to see, the werewolf, despite this failed GFI, the werewolf and the ghoul are about to maraud their way forward. I think what I find is, and this is especially true when you've got that Agi 3 Blitzrar, you sometimes see Khemri coaches look to almost surround the ball with a cage before attempting the pickup. I think the problem that I find with that is that if you do manage to make the pickup, then you end up in such a position that you've given up a lot of pitch, or a lot of ground, if you like, pitch position. So say the kick had gone deep and I've now got 5 players in the backfield. It kind of allows the rest of the team to motor up the field and look to capitalise. Khemri aren't great at getting forward quickly, are they? So generally speaking, I prefer to try and hold my ground at the halfway line until I get the ball there, and then move the game on from there. When it works, it's great. The problem is when it doesn't work, you end up in horrible positions like this. So this now became about what can we do to save this. So the idea was to basically just start using Pratchett for magic dice. Makes the pickup in the tackle zone, makes the dodge. So at this point, we're now looking to pass to the other thrower. Unfortunately, it rolls a pair of 2s and drops it right next to the ghoul. And at this point, we're now praying to not be 2-0 down going into the second half. So again, I think at that point, probably should have realised that I was in a bit of trouble and looked to play it safer than I did. I think we very much had eyes all over the prize of the equaliser, especially with the werewolves being committed up the field. So was potentially a little greedy in trying to make that pass. One dice blitz came in, it was a POW, which you never like to see, and it was an injury too, but that did regen. So it's now just whether the strength for Adjigul that caused me so many problems last season could pick the ball up. He did. Made the dodge, and then it was just a 3+ handoff to put me in a lot of bother. So as you say, utterly disastrous first half. One of those where I just couldn't get anything to work for me. And for Berserk, I was saying there, it wasn't that it was a... I don't want to start screaming Dyson, but occasionally when he needed a dice to go his way so far, at least, everything was coming up for him. So the white came back as well. I was at full strength thanks to the 2 regens, so obviously now the 1 turn was not going to happen with Khemri, so it was just about making sure that we did some damage. Having said that, I think if I remember correctly, we do give the 1 turn touchdown and go. With that feeling of having to try something to get back into the game. Yep, so trying to use the plus movement blitz route to do that. Was hoping to take advantage of the fact he was a little lazy with his setup there. And left me a bunch of 5+s. Rather than the 6+ that would have been needed if that wolf was 1 square the other way. So the kick went very deep. It was a blitz, but really that's the best sort of time for a blitz. But it did mean that he was able to fill that gap that he'd left. So we did have a reroll for this, as we look to get the plus movement blitz right into range. It is possible, of course, with movement 7. You've got to block very specifically to get the thing into the right position. That needed the reroll if we were going for it. So the reroll was gone early now. And then rolled a bunch of pows, so wasn't able to do any better than that. So now just became about taking blocks, trying to find some damage. So the reason we pro'd that was to try and chain push the zombie into another hit. Piled on and got a stun again. Took the hit here with Ho Russell Brand. And got a 3rd stun. And good old Fatchetep makes the pick up this time when he doesn't need it. Before promptly screwing his pass up. So, overall, not a first half that'll live long in the memory from my point of view. Certainly not in a positive way, but lessons to be learned. But of course, scoring twice in the second half was a big ask. So, both teams getting a reroll. We set up in a similar fashion to before, but this time we did accidentally leave the 2 guard skeletons on the bench. Possibly, or certainly a little bit of lack of concentration from myself there. No reason to leave guard skeletons on the bench when they're of use to you. Finding a KO on that guard zombie was useful, gives us a good start to the drive. And a second KO there on Hannigall the Plastic. Again, good news. So of course we knew that we had the bribe in pockets, so we're able to foul rookie zombies as well, just to try and get as many removals as we could. Didn't opt to follow up there because we didn't want to be stuck on the white. Foul came in, and we got just a stun there. So this skeleton came around the far side here. A, to gain me some ground up the field, and B, just to protect the Tomb Guardian and the Blitzerar. And then good old Imhotep Pratchitep fails the pickup again. In fact, no, it was the other thrower. We'd given up on Terry at this point, and tried to pick up on Ho Russell Brown. Wanted to score on that thrower if we could, just to get him towards a level. Although that being said, Imhotep was also one touchdown away from leveling up. So yeah, Barserk actually already running out of zombies at this point. Just 2 zombies on the field to protect all of those positionals. So I very much made the decision that committing to the right-hand side was the way to go. But at the same time, sparing a rookie skeleton to tie up that flesh golem was also a good idea to try and keep him out of the game. Targeted the flesh golem here just because of the higher chance of knockdown, and we did indeed get a casualty there. But 8 regen. But still, that was 3 removals in the first 2 turns, which is a good start to the half. The plan actually was to foul that flesh golem, give him a chance, but instead, with that gone, we decided to foul the zombie to no avail. It was only the impression that would burn the 2 and the 1 on that foul, but Imhotep Pratchitep is utterly, utterly useless, and proceeded to roll another 2 followed by another 1. So at this point, you're now questioning just what you have to do to even get the ball into the hands of one of your players. The skeleton there failing to do his job and survive a few hits to keep the flesh golem tied down. And of course that meant that Barserk was able to consider pushing forward for a bit more pressure. Took a 1 dice, but it was a 1 dice frenzy trap that he re-rolled. And was rewarded with a KO, I think. I remember at the time getting quite frustrated with that. Because it felt a little lazy and unnecessary. But was massively rewarded. Another 1 dice there, finding a knockdown from the zombie. It was one of those games where, unfortunately, just every time Barserk rolled a 1 dice, it seemed to go exactly the way he wanted it to. So chain push play here was to get the Tomb Guardian back up alongside his mate. And again, just not finding knockdowns anywhere. Managed 1 this time on Kermit the Frog. Didn't pile on, just wanted to make sure that we kept everything under wraps over there. And finally, the thrower gets the ball. And at this point, we have actually made some decent ground down that side that we can work our way into. Dirty player would have forced a turnover. We did have the free reroll, so opted to burn that there and rewarded with a stun. But yeah, the skeleton not doing his job meant that flesh golem, the strength 5 guard, was able to come back into play and be a nuisance. So again, another 1 dice against a Tomb Guardian. Rewarded with a POW and an armor break. And another knockdown on a Tomb Guardian there. But failed dodge from the white. Wasn't sure whether he'd reroll this. Did opt to. So just a push on the white, which meant that the idea here was to just try and get beyond his wolf lines with as many players as we could, and hope that the white couldn't 4+3+ to give us a real pain. So yeah, we basically just built a conga line of Khemri players to try and make it as long a way around as possible for the wolves that they want to hit. And we were kind of just relying on the white, either not uphilling his way through there, or making the 4+3+. As it happened, Barserk just did exactly what he did last season in a similar scenario. And just opted to put both of his sidestep wolves straight on the ball carrier, which made my life a bit of a pain. So in my head, decision was taken that we had to score this turn if we wanted any chance. So knockdown came in on the fleshy, which freed up one of the throw raws. So break tackle worked, and we tried to find a way. We did re-roll this because we needed the knockdown to get that wolf out of the way. Managed to injure it as well. Just a badly hurt, but it was of course one of them removed for the rest of the game. And at this point it was without a re-roll, a 3+ dodge into the end zone. So decided to take this knock just because well, I suppose if it was going to fail, it was going to fail. The game felt lost anyway. So just looked for a cheap removal. But as it happened, Mr. Pratchitep finally came good and did score. So 2-1 now. And with a few turns, I think 3 turns left to try and find an equaliser. Tomb Guardian came back, which is good news for me. The werewolf was staying out. And the zombie, well, I mean, one of them had guard, but it wasn't the end of the world. There was plenty to replace that on the sideline. So it was still 11 versus 11, as you would expect. So again, aggressive setup, looking to leave the throw raw, on the field in case of an opportunity to pick up the ball. But it was time to try the old 3-turn Khemri steal and score. That you have to say, you don't see very often. Kick was short, and there was a pitch invasion. Now, in terms of fame, I was actually down on fame there, so it wasn't a great result for me. That being said, for it to have finished 2 apiece was actually really good. Considering how badly that could have gone. So Blitz coming in from the Flesh Golem. With the ball being on that side, this makes sense to just try and keep that Tomb Guardian out of the game. So the ball in the hands of the Ghoul, and for me it just became about, right, what is the maximum amount of pressure I can possibly apply to this team? So there was a little hole there where I was able to just throw a couple of Tomb Guardians right up into the thick of things. And it would just sort of throw as much as we have at this and see what sticks. 2 dice there. Using a team reroll rather than pro, because again we really wanted to get through that Flesh Golem. Then opted to send Mr. Pratchett around the back. Just to condense the field. And ended up going, because we had the bribes. We were fouled with the other throw rock. Nothing doing, unfortunately. So GFI allows a 2 dice on both Tomb Guardians, both of which result in house. Of course, I did have stand firm. Failed zombie dodge to finish the turn on the 4+. So as you can see, I think I spotted a potential opportunity here to get that shot that I needed at the ball. We just needed to knock down this Flesh Golem, and there was a chance to dodge Tala Swift through there on a 4+ to give us a 1 dice. We did manage to do it by making that a 3 dice, despite it being a strength 4 player. And helped ourselves to a cheeky little casualty as well. Regen fail on that one, just to badly hurt though. So, Imhotep Pratchett dodge failed. The reason we took this first is because we wanted a scoring threat. Turn 15, I needed to have something in scoring range on this turn before we went for the miracle dodge play. That did work out, rolled a 6. And then, thanks to tackle, managed to take down the Ghoul as well. Didn't find an armor break, but wasn't ever going to pile on. So it was now just in Nuffle's hands where the ball was going to scatter. And eventually lands in the hands of set 7 there. So at this point, looking like the dream might be on. I was then trying to stop players from getting to the scoring threat. Because of course, if you blitzed Imhotep Pratchett down, then the dream was dead once more. Ghoul dodged out to go and mark the scoring threat. 1 dice skull on the ball carrier, rerolled into the knockdown. So again, this was now just down to the scatter dice again. It wasn't too bad for me. I felt like it was still retrievable. Another 1 dice pow coming in this time on the Blitzra, who took a knockout. But he kind of done his job at this point. And then it was Wolf into scoring range. That was a 1 dice both down, which did knock out the Tomb Guardian. Because I don't think he was going to be massively relevant to the play that followed. It was unfortunate because that player might have been able to block one of the guys near the ball. So again, this just became a question of how do I get that ball over to Imhotep Pratchett. Finally got the power there. With a blitz I didn't really want to use. Obviously, with touchdown difference in mind, try to surround the ball just in case it all went wrong. Ron Bowman there, rolling a pow. Planning on just really for the SPP at this stage. Taking more blocks because the score was unlikely to work. So the rookie thrower was going to come back in and just try the miracle pass. But there he went. And unfortunately, we rolled another 2 and another 1. So this game did end in defeat. So made it a particularly poor start of the season. It was 2 defeats out of 2. And left us pretty much at the bottom of the table. With Wood Elves on the menu for week 3. Another KO. Just trying to scatter the ball. Scatter was quite nice for me, so another 1 dice knockdown there. And attempted the 5+ pickup, failed, and that was the game right there. So it was well played to Barserk. He bested me once again. Useful MVP for him with the rookie white getting within 1 star player point of a level. We didn't really need that to go to Ron Bowman, to be honest. He's kind of just working his way towards legend now, so MVPs aren't ideal on that front. But yeah, the game ended 2-1. We won't go at the leaderboard because we're way into week 4 now, so it'll be kind of irrelevant. So we can, I guess you can tune in to the next one, which is against Tumbling Dice, the Wood Elves, and we look to get our first win of the season. Thanks very much for watching, and apologies that this game took so long to get uploaded.